Assalamu alaikum. It is Sunday, 20th of June, 2021. And in our series, Call of the Messiah, this is the 40th broadcast. And in this broadcast, we'll look at some of the writings of Maulvi Maududi and see what he has to say about creation of Pakistan and jihad and creating a Jamaat and taking the bath. The Lahore Ahmadiyya community, which brings you these broadcasts, was founded by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib. And he taught us that although people bring a new prophet after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, or an old prophet after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, the Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet was Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet said that it means La Nabiya Ba'di. So no prophet, no old prophet, no new prophet, no any kind of prophet is going to come after the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And Hazrat Sahab's claim was that he is the Mujaddid of the 14th century, in line with the hadith of the Holy Prophet, in which the Holy Prophet said that now prophets will not come, but Mujaddideen, reformers, will come. But his distinction was that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam used the terms Messiah and Mahdi for Hazrat Sahib. Hazrat Sahib also taught us that some people say some prophetic revelation is missing from the Holy Quran, like Ayah Rajam or Surah Walayat. But the Holy Quran is complete. No prophetic revelation that the angel Gabriel brought is missing from it. In the same way, people say that some verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib taught that no verse of the Holy Quran was, is, or ever shall be abrogated. And he also stressed that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima, you are a kafir, you are not a Muslim, then it is the person saying it who is not a Muslim. Hazrat Sahib stressed that jihad is a fundamental duty of every Muslim. But jihad as defined by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and not by some Maulvi in some mosque somewhere. The Holy Prophet, while returning from fighting, said, from the minor jihad we return to the major jihad. And the major jihad is to control your own negative feelings and desires. So let us go to the topic today. We did have a slight problem earlier on, but no one's with the internet, but no one screamed. So I'm assuming everything is okay. I want to share. I don't want to say anything of my own. I want to share the articles and letters of Maulana Maududi to show you what his views were about the things that I mentioned. Here is this book, and if you go to the bottom, we see that it says gives in English the title Movement for Freedom of India and Muslims, Part 1, and it's printed by Islamic Publications. So let us carry on to the next page. The first thing is this often repeated lie about our Jamaat that we edit the books of the promised Messiah, or we don't print or publish them and so on. They are all on the internet in the original form. But let's see what the compiler of this book says. Here is the Urdu, which I have translated into English. The compiler says, the compiler has omitted let me see what I can. The compiler has omitted only those sentences or altered them which are not related to the topic but the current form of the book. So here is an admission by the compiler of this book. The compiler is Professor Khurshid Ahmed, who was a witness against us, who was listed as a witness against us in the South Africa case, where the High Court was to decide whether members of Lahore Ahmadiyya community are Muslims or not. And when it was Professor Khurshid's turn to appear in the witness stand, he ran away from South Africa. So he's the compiler, and he is admitting compiler has omitted or altered, whatever excuse you might use. But it shows that Jamaat-i Islami has a habit of editing their founder, Maulvi Maududi's books, so that they tie in for whatever the political situation is at the time. If you buy the same books in India, you'll find that there are differences between those and the same books printed in Pakistan. So let us carry on. Let's see what's on the next page. Oh, this is Maulana's opinion of Muslims. Our nation includes a very large number of hypocrites. Now, you see, as Ghulam Ahmad Sahib is often criticized and blamed for using strong language against his opponents. And there is stronger language in this book, which I didn't scan, which calls Muslims adulterers, drunks, and so on and so forth. But here, they're being called hypocrites. And then he goes on the same page. By letting these poisonous animals walk in our Jamaat and stay in it, we are giving these animals an opportunity to spread their poison. Is this praise? No member of Jamaat-i Islami ever points this out. Is this praising Muslims who are not in Jamaat-i Islami? That they're poisonous snakes and they shouldn't be allowed into the Jamaat? This is Maulvi Maududi's opinion about those who are not members of his Jamaat. Let's see what he says about the fight for struggle. Struggle for freedom. You remember, most religious leaders of India were opposed to creation of Pakistan. And Maulana Maududi was one. And he was fighting tooth and nail that Pakistan should not be created. So, as for freedom, which is in quotations, and in the original Urdu, it's in quotations. As for freedom, which the nationalists are looking for, these nationalists were the Muslim League, Quaid-e-Azam, the founder of Pakistan, Liaquat Ali Khan, the first Prime Minister of Pakistan, and all their companions, which the nationalists are looking for, let alone fighting in its support, we consider it to be a greater curse than the slavery of the British. This is Maulvi Maududi's opinion, that the fight of Hazrat Quaid-e-Azam and Muslim League and the Lahore Ahmadiyya community, I hasten to add, for creation of Pakistan was a curse and worse than remaining slaves of the British. Why don't you, Jamaat-i Islami, why don't you put this in your manifesto when you next go for elections? I haven't translated some of the things, but I may do that. Let's see. This is about jihad. Maulana Maududi says, you cannot change facts by merely appealing to emotions. The patient, he is referring to Muslims of India, who is half dead, before you go to him as a soldier, as a general, he says, you have to go to him as a doctor. In fact, I omitted a little bit of this, which says, first, take his pulse, treat his illness. After that, you can put a sword round his waist. How wise is it that the patient is close to death and you are saying to him, get up and fight? What was it that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said? Exactly the same thing. That you don't have the resources, you don't have the strength, you don't have the money. How are you going to conduct this so-called jihad? And anyway, jihad should be declared by a Muslim government. Which Muslim state in India, or the government of Afghanistan or Iran or anyone, who was declaring jihad against the British? But Maulvi Maududi says this and it's fine. But the Messiah sent by God says this, and suddenly jihad has been abolished. And he becomes a kafir. Let's go to the next page. This is about if the Muslim League succeeds and Pakistan is created. This is about that. And then he says, people think that whatever a Muslim does is Islamic. If he opens a bank, that will be an Islamic bank and so on. And then he ends by saying that their heretical country, Kafirana Riyasat, their non-Muslim state will be called an Islamic state. And their pharaohs and Namruds will be called Islamic leaders. And what was this state, this heretical state, this Kafirana Riyasat that was being created? That was Pakistan. And who were these pharaohs and Namruds? That was Qadi-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Liaquat Ali and the leadership of the Muslim League. Why don't you ever read these out in the Pakistani parliament? Let's go to the next page, which is about letters of Maulana Maududi. Oh, sorry, extract. This is the cover. Letters of Maududi. You see, it says, this here says Rahmatullah Alayh. It's highly objectionable for us to say Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Rahmatullah Alayh or Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam, but it's okay for Maududi to be called this. These letters, handwritten letters by Maulvi Maududi, and these are the compilers Rafiuddin Hashmi and Salim Mansoor Khalid. And I want to draw your attention to something for which Hazrat Sahab was criticized. Number one, creating Jamaat-i Islami. Oh, he split the Ummah. Well, before the Jamaat-i Ahmadiyya was created, were Muslims united? Muslims fought each other more than others. When Tipu Sultan raised his sword against the British to try and get freedom for India, it was the Nizam of Hyderabad, the ruler of a Muslim state, who supported the British against Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali, or Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, father and son, because he was afraid that if they defeated the British, they'll become too powerful. So he was quite happy to for Indians and Indian Muslims to be enslaved by the British as long as he kept his kingdom. But anyway, we're talking about creating a Jamaat. And as far as these people are concerned, this was splitting the Ummah. What does Maulana Maududi say? It is obvious that if someone is to rise up to establish the true religion, the truth, and it's a group of people, then it can only be from among these. But we say it's from Lahore Ahmadiyya community. Why is it okay for you to say it's from among you, members of Jamaat-i Islami, and wrong for us to say, no, it's not? You are politicians. You make all kinds of unsavory political deals with people in closed rooms, and then come out and lie to the news media. But then he goes on to say, this great task, Yakari Azim, this great task, it's not enough to restrict it to your personal beliefs and action and follow it. ये काम ऐसी एक जमात चाहता है. This needs a jamaat. This needs a group of people. This needs an organization. I'm using different terms for jamaat here. He hasn't repeated it 3 times. Which draws people, which is so fervent in its efforts and so strong that it pulls the others towards its belief and its action. What is Lahore Ahmadiyya community doing? Why is it okay for Maulvi Maududi to do that and not for us to do it? We do the same thing. The difference is we don't want a government. We don't want ministries like Jamaat-i Islami. We want to clean and clarify people's souls. And we want to establish the greatness of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam throughout the world. We don't want to become ministers. We don't want free bungalows in Islamabad. We don't want free cars from the government. We don't want to make any deals in closed rooms like you do. That look, the objection against the promised Messiah, your founder's words are slapping your face with the reply. And then he goes on. You say that it starts here, although I haven't marked it, that in the constitution of Jamaat-i Islami, the recitation of Shahadatan, the testimonies, is a condition. But every Muslim recites the kalima. That is what it means to be a Muslim. So why does it have to be recited again to join your Jamaat? The path that Hazrat Sahib coined, drafted, it has kalma at the top. And you all objected. Why do we are Muslims? Why do we have to recite the kalima again? Why do people have to recite the kalima again to join Jamaat-i Islami? And he goes on to say, the reason is that people putting themselves forward for this task, they are righteous. They have the right beliefs. And they're not tainted by ignorant ideas which have currently found a place amongst the Muslims. And then listen. Further, that before they start the task of calling people to the service of Allah, they should again renew their contract, their promise with Allah. And like a new Muslim, no-Muslim, a person who has just embraced Islam, start this work with renewed fervor and move forward. And then because of the objection, You can see Jamaat is being formed. You can see where I mentioned Shahadatan, and the compilers have given a note here. Shahadatan means to testify to unity of Godhead and messengership, which is done by reciting the kalima. And then he gives, to justify this taking of the path or renewal of faith, he quotes Maulana Maududi. And the compiler says here, in this place, Maulana Maududi has given the following footnote, or literally the margin. Some people object to the condition of renewal of faith and say that for scholars and spiritual leaders and people who are well known for their faith, why is it necessary to stress this condition? And then he goes on to explain why everyone who wants to join Jamaat-i Islami must take this oath. And it's on 2 pages, although I only translated the first part of this footnote. So the point I'm making is this, that to me, one strong evidence of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad being from God and the Mujaddid and the Messiah and the Mahdi is that every objection that has been raised against him, the person raising that objection has been slapped in the face with his own words. And you see what Maulana Maududi says about Muslims, what his opinion is of Muslims. They're hypocrites. They're liars. They'll sell anything for money. Read the book. I didn't translate all of it. Hypocrites was enough. That a country created by the Muslim League, this is Pakistan, would be a country of heretics. This will be a heretical state. That Muslim Ummah is sick and weak, and it cannot conduct a jihad against anyone. First, it needs reform. And a group of people is needed to establish the greatness of the character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad and the truth of Islam. A group, an individual cannot do it. And it is essential that those who want to join that group must take an oath of allegiance to it and promise Allah that they will abide by the law of Islam. Whatever may come. I found it very strange But if Maulvi Maududi says this, that is fine. If Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Rahmatullah alayh says this, then it's a matter of objection. I'm told that the time of our broadcast is over, so I should be signing off. So with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep the whole of humanity under His shadow and in His protection. Our next broadcast will be on Monday, 7 p.m. in Urdu, the Barul Quran, and 7:30 in English, reflections on the Holy Quran. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.